Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Main Character Syndrome. I'm your host, Cheesymanfredo, aka Alfredo Morales, and it has been too long. It's been almost half a year since I think our last episode was in August, or before that. I can't remember. But my computer went through some shit. Then a couple of just awful financial disasters happened to me, so I just didn't have time to focus on this podcast. But now I'm gonna make a real effort to come back strong, and with me in this new chapter of Main Character Syndrome, I have a new co-host. Well, I a co-host now finally. Julian, my Julian, come say hi, Julian.
Yep, that's me, Julian. And I would just like to say thank you for tuning in. That's right.
Yep,
Character Syndrome is back, bigger, faster, and with a larger sperm count
stronger,
than ever.
girthier, veinier, darker, more more diversity, more inclusion. Um, this time we'll never have another white guest ever. I can't remember who the last guests were, but if they were white, they're gonna be the last ones. No more. Only POCs from here on out. Um, and that's gonna be how we're gonna roll about. And so Julian, how you been?
I have been, I guess, living. Um, it's a slow, grueling process to create art that
Oh
I
yeah,
myself appreciate.
true. I am when this time this episode comes out, it's I just wrapped up on a 2.5 long project called Make Paglachi, which is a parody that adapts the opera Pagliacci, starring the Ronald McDonald Land characters. And I just wrapped that up, posted that all on Twitter, and you can go read it. It's all on my account. I am now in phase two of the McPaglachi operation, which is to get some physical copies made. I am waiting for a hard proof from this printer company that I'm talking to come to my house, and we'll take a glance at it and see if it's what we want. We want the physical copies to be very particular. I want a place that can make them affordably, and we want the ink to be red, just like in the digital version. But we also want the paper to be kind of like yellowish
Right.
to give like a burger wrapper vibe, you know? Because I think people would dig that. That will kind of incentivize people to like pre-order the physical copies because it looks there's something, it's what's the word? It's part of the package, right? It's like you get something a little extra than like just reading it online and being done with it. You get what I mean?
Yeah. It's kind of like I forget how long ago this was, but someone printed a comic book on a toilet paper roll and was like, no, you're not supposed to actually use it like toilet paper. It's just like a fun, like cheeky way to read the comic.
Oh god. Someone should like try to make the worst comic ever. Then you print it on toilet paper, and then you could use it to like wipe your ass. You know. Oh shit. Big brain idea. I just got $1 million idea. All right. So those like newspaper comic strips are just one panel, like they just have one gag, like Family Circus.
Yeah.
Imagine if like someone made like toilet paper and each sheet of paper had like a Family Circus comic on it. So you when you open it, you could read a funny comic and then you use it to wipe your ass. That sounds pretty good. I might write that up and maybe I'll make like a little 4 panel comic about it. By the way, for the audience, I now randomly draw 4 panel comics of just funny little stupid jokes that I come up with because you never know if one of those might blow up and come big. I recently, not recently, but a couple months ago, I did one that got like I saw it like come back into circulation, and someone like translated it as like a Spanish meme. So yeah, I'm trying to like
Was
grow
that the
in any way
Marvel villain
possible.
one?
Uh, I think I seen the Marvel villain one. That wasn't translated in Spanish. It was the Bubblegum Gentleman one. You
Oh,
know,
that's a good one.
yeah, I really do like that one. Even though I don't even necessarily agree with it, I just feel like catering to the place Japan type people, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Not a big fan of those people, but if you know, if they can retweet my shit, I don't give a shit really.
It's a
You know
very
what I mean?
Bill Burr style of joke. Like he might not agree with what's being said. He's just saying, hey, isn't this weird? Has anyone else noticed this?
This is just so weird. Has anyone else noticed this? Like a certain group of people are just a little bit more violent than another group of people. Doesn't sound? Yeah, you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying. I'm just asking. I'm just asking questions. That's it. I'm just asking questions. I'm just a little guy. Is that what you're saying, Julian? Is that perfectly describe like what you're trying to say?
Not particularly, but I think that is how a lot of his material comes across, unfortunately.
Yeah, racist. No, I like Bill Burr. He has a black wife. He can't be racist.
Oh, I keep
You know.
forgetting that. That's interesting.
You, yeah, she used to like come on his like podcast that he would do. Like she was his on and off again like co-host. I like that Bill Burr podcast, but he would talk about like he would be funny, but then he'll talk about like sports, and I'm like I have no idea what he's talking about, so I like zone out. You know,
I can kind of follow some of the sports stuff, but that
you're a sports guy.
not like religiously, but I like checking in on the highlights and like seeing, what's new and cool in the world of athletics. Like, how far are we pushing the human machine to inhumane proportions?
Mm-hmm. I
It's
as
the
a
closest thing we
guy,
have to superheroes.
yeah, I can see that. As a guy, I have been able to train myself to look at a TV and pretend that I'm paying attention to sports. Due to like my father, who um who would tell me to actively that I should be watching sports. When I was younger, he told me that I should be watching sports because if I don't watch sports, what are me and my buddies gonna talk about? You know, and I said like, well, probably we talk about things we actually like video games instead of sports.
Yeah.
You know, was your father like that, Julian? Was he did he push you into sports? Did he push you to have some sort of sports angle?
Unfortunately, no. That probably would have like panned out better for me in the long run. He was very much a Jesse Jackson kind of figure. Well, I say was, but like he's not dead or anything. But when I
Oh,
was a
okay.
kid, his whole thing was like, oh, learn an instrument, do your singing exercises, do your homework, but also do your singing exercises.
You never have told me too much about your father, but it seems like every little hint and clue I get always kind of relates back to something audio related.
Yeah, that's like
Um,
his whole big thing. He's a audio. I don't want to say dweeb, but maybe geek.
like nerd, audio nerd.
Yeah,
That sounds appropriate. Is it like a hobby or is that related to his like professional career?
that's his whole like profession. He does like stage stuff. He's always talking about like turning our house into a concert hall, and I'm like, no, I don't want strangers where I live.
That's so weird. That how big is your house to be that he would even consider that unless it's not that big, which makes his wishes to do so actually silly.
It's not that big, but we have like a whole basement that does not get used. People used to live
Ah,
there, now they're gone, so it's just like, oh, we have all this free space, why aren't we using this? But then, like, even if you suggest that, he says, no, I want the living room to be where the performance happens. And it's like,
that's
stop.
that's funny. If I had a basement, I'd probably like host if I host like local punk shows like I did back at my old place. But then you get all sorts of people walking through your unless you got one of those basements that has like a door to the outside, then
Yeah,
that
that's
seems a
what you
little bit
need.
more. Yeah, yeah, because you don't really want like any sort of like wacky crust punk ass motherfucker walking in your house. I wouldn't wish that on my enemies. Just saying. So, Julian, how do you feel about being co-host? How do you what what are your plans? What do you foresee in your co-host career?
My plan is to immaculately fade into the background like Andy Richter, where you don't even notice I'm there, but when I chime in, you're like, oh, that guy. Oh, wow. Oh, gee. And I want to stay as far away from being like a Nolan-esque figure as possible. Those of you who know, you know what I mean when I say Nolan-esque.
What did you think were the flaws of Nolan? You could talk shit. He's not. It's not like he's gonna do anything about it or
True.
hear this. Who cares? If we say anything too awful, like if we say where he lives, I'll just cut it out or something.
Yeah, we can just edit it out. But like, I don't know, Nolan never really seemed to be like the kind of guy that respected guests or like the
mm,
material at all. Like,
mm.
you know, uh,
Are,
to clarify, this is the former Nolan of the now former Pizza Party podcast, which is in the process of being turned into something else entirely.
it's going through its second reboot,
Yeah.
which is really it's really super funny because it's like it's I mean the vibe, if anyone doesn't know, is that the original members weren't told that they were gonna get kicked off and they got replaced by a new group of people. And the person leading this charge was Daft Pina, who basically just told Pan Pizza that just let me do everything, and Pan's like yeah, and let him do that, right? And then Pan's boyfriend came up to Pan and said, "Let me do everything. Plus, I'll suck your dick." And then Pan says, "Yeah," and then he just threw out Daft, just like Pan threw out his former co-host before Daft, without even like saying a word to the guy. And it's been quite the shit show, and they've been kind of unceremonious. Technically, the Pizza Party podcast has been unceremoniously like canceled, like it's over. And now there's this new podcast called the P3 podcast, and it's not even out yet. They're supposed to do like sporadic episodes, which I don't know. Knowing unless like because it seems like Pam's boyfriend is pretty good with schedules and stuff like that, but they're I don't know, the vibe that I get, they seem to be not too focused on pumping out any episodes soon, and like from and all the other like replacement co-hosts that they're bringing are like people no one knows that are only really friends with Pan's boyfriend. And from the little bit of like information I know about them, it seems like they might have their own kind of little controversies and dramas that are being dragged into this podcast, maybe. So I mean, we'll see. Maybe there'll be a third Pizza Party podcast reboot, you know, or this
And
might
for
just
you,
be
those of you listening
the
at
end.
home, if you don't like your podcasts like constantly rebooting, just tune into Main Character Syndrome. Tell your
Yep,
friends to tune in because this show is going to be going for a while.
exactly. I plan to. It's this show will evolve. It'll change, but I plan to keep going, and we who knows what big and scary forms the show will take place in the future, you know, but it'll still be here, you know, kind of like a Cthulhu esque monster that can't die. That's how I see this podcast. That's kind of how I want it to go about. Um, Going back to Nolan for a minute, I always felt like Nolan was like never good at like improving, or basically I always feel like he would deflate any like kind of joke Pan would say, and I say like joke very generously. But anytime Pan would do something as like a bit, Nolan would do the thing where like what are you talking about? But like sarcastically, you know, like framing Pan as like being this kind of like crazy guy. But he would do this like over and over again, and it felt very like is this really like the only like joke you got? You know,
Yeah, like it works
um,
as a joke, but you have to like
you could
either lean into it or like get a new joke.
yeah, exactly. And I feel like if people played more with what Pan was saying, because like that's the kind of thing you have to kind of like meet Pan by his terms, because he's just kind of like focused in on himself. Not that he's like conceited or that he has a big ego, but it's more like it takes energy to kind of like listen to what people are doing and saying.
Yeah,
So he doesn't really do that. Um, in the nicest way possible. I'm trying to say this is what I'm saying. Oh
I
man.
definitely get that. I tend to do that myself sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Not of any particular malice, but I hear people talking about themselves. I'm just like, yeah, great. Bullet points, please.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is
I
pretty
need
bad. I'm working on that.
I need bullet points. I'm trying to find this one image because I feel I want to talk about this image. I've been saving. I've been holding on to this image since like the last episode, which is like months ago. But Julian, I want you to tell me your take on this image, and I'll post it in the video version for it too. But what do you think? What can you describe this image that we're looking at?
So it starts with a trendy looking woman, um,
Wait, hold on. I got a bigger
jeans.
version of it. Oh wait, no, that's too big. Haha. And gone.
She's wearing shoes, but she isn't wearing socks. That's kind of strange. There are glasses on her head that she should probably be wearing.
Here's the link to the image so you could see it bigger.
And then
But
the caption is like, "Oh, do you want to go out somewhere? Oh, a comic store? I guess I can give it a try."
so basically, this is like a nerdification fetish art
Yeah.
where the girl on the left is like a normal I guess a normal average girl who knows nothing about like nerdy shit, and then slowly you turn her more and more nerdy, right? And yeah, even like her jacket weirdly changes color too. Like, is it what is that implying? Because it's like, is this image framing this as this is kind of like a super? Because I've seen other transformation stuff and it's implied to be like kind of like supernatural or like science fictiony, but this image isn't like becoming a nerd isn't like a horrifying like transformation, you know. But the way this image frames it, it's trying to make it seem like it is, you know. You know what I'm
I
saying,
guess if
Julian?
you're afraid of having freckles, then this might be terrifying.
Yeah, even her hair becomes a little bit more like anime. She gets that like one curl
I think
coming
there's a
up.
name for that. Not a Hago, but it
The
sounds
the
similar.
anime girl, the anime girl curl, the anime girl antenna.
Yeah.
I think let's credit the artist. Their name is Raw Loli Pasta. So if you're into transformation, I am looking through their other stuff. They've done other. It seems like this nerd transformation was a commission, and they do specialize in it. With they got a couple of men turning into bimbos. Julia, what's your opinion on transformation?
I'm not into it myself, but I can appreciate its utility in the art market, so to speak.
Yeah,
There are some people who are really into that.
I'm gonna for anyone who doesn't know, I a couple months ago I ran a Kickstarter for a clown porn anthology called Clown Milk, and it failed. But we did get people their orders and everything, and I do want to try it again, make like a volume two to it because it was it. The problem with the Kickstarter wasn't necessarily like the product. I think the product itself was fine. It's just that I was asking for too much money, and I could have thought about it a little bit more. But I already talked about like all my like all the places I went wrong with the Kickstarter. Um, that being said, for the second volume, I have an idea for like a transformation fetish comic where where a chick slowly gets more clownified, and it's not that like, and not even like in a supernatural way. It's more like she watches like killer clowns from outer space, and she slowly starts dressing more colorfully and getting into clowns in like a fetishy way, and it's like a couple days process because she just gets more and more into clowns, and that's gonna be the angle that I'm trying to go for my next it's my story that I'm gonna do in the Clown Milk anthology when we eventually get to that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. When she's fully transformed, will she be honking or will it just be like goofy laughter? I'm not really
I
sure
think
what's
I
like the
I think
clown
we
colloquialism.
I think we could like I think it's gonna do honking stuff. I think it'll get goofier. It'll get like funnier because it's ultimately just like a cartoon. So you could like do all the like the silly little bits. I had this whole even like a ending joke that I thought would be super funny. But I don't want to spoil that. You know, don't want to spill too much beans for
Also,
people.
I totally incorrectly used the word colloquialism. I was thinking of onomatopoeia.
That's a big mistake. It's a big jump.
Yeah.
I feel, you know.
I was thinking
Ooh,
clown sounds, and then my brain said, no, that's too big a
yeah,
word.
clown sounds like colloquialism. That's what clowns do. That's the sound they make. Yeah, Julian, you there?
I'm still here. Sorry.
All right, cool, cool. Okay, what? I'm
I
trying
was
to
just too
think
stunned
about.
by my stupidity.
No, it's fine. You're forgiven. I forgive you this time. Um, anything else boggle your mind this week, Julian? Anything else catch your attention?
Let's see. I did have some notes.
What do you got in your notes?
Oh, I thought this was interesting. Do you care about those cartoonist kayfabe guys?
Yeah, yeah, I watch them. I'm big. I'm pretty decent fan of theirs. I have one of their shirts too.
Oh, nice.
I think I mentioned them on this podcast before too.
They recently did a video about R. Crumb. It's
Oh, okay.
titled something like, "Oh, R. Crumb's greatest comic
Greatest,
ever."
yeah, greatest comic. Which was I didn't click on it, but did they pick a greatest? Was it several or was it just one comic they picked? Because sometimes you're like tricky with those titles.
It was just one comic. What I thought was interesting about it is that it's just like 2 pages.
What if they picked the racist one, the one where it's like if the N words took over? Imagine.
This one is more of a like I guess landscape study for Crumb. He drew 2 settings that change over time, and normally I would look at something like that and I wouldn't really care, but I thought it was interesting and funny that these guys could look at like these 2 pages and then like pull a whole like 20-minute analysis out of it.
Oh boy, I like landscape.
Yeah,
I can probably do that. Maybe. I don't draw too many landscapes. In most cases, I feel I avoid trying to draw like settings, which has been one of my biggest weaknesses as an artist. I even like look back on previous chapters of Villain Verse, and a lot of the like settings and locations could like I could beef them up a little bit, but I usually just take the easier route for them, and feel a little embarrassed of doing that. You know what I'm saying?
I definitely understand. I've been
Yeah.
trying to hack my way through that. I keep thinking, if Hanna-Barbera like can do it, then there must be some way to do it in comics that isn't cheap.
No, I agree. I think I think what it is, and this is just kind of how I am with like all art techniques, is I have to find like the proper like angle to do like the technique. Like you gotta like kind of find the interesting way for you to do something.
Yeah.
Which is like the big problem. If there's something you don't want to do, it might just be because like whatever way you're trying to do it is not like stimulating enough for you, or doesn't like um doesn't like encourage you in the right way. And I feel like I've always kind of struggled with landscapes because I just haven't found my proper angle to approach landscapes with.
Yeah, and
um
like everyone does that. Like my favorite thing to point out is that the Shaman King guy draws very like striking detailed artwork, Character design's always like completely on point, but I guess he hates drawing feet. He does not draw the feet. It's just like
Uh,
a circle and like the big toe, and he's like, okay, done.
Wait, what? I'm gonna need to see an example of this because I've never read the Shaman King manga.
Let's see.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I know most people when they don't like drawing feet, they just draw the feet out of panel, you know,
Yeah.
or the feet are like blocked by something, right? And yeah, that's like how you do it. If there's something you don't want to like draw, you like kind of like keep it out of frame. And I do that a couple times, or I just don't draw it, you know. If it if it's not necessary for the panel, I just don't draw it. Um, and all that.
Wow,
You find
Google
it. You
Images
find
is not helping me right now.
oof. What did you type in? Shaman King feet.
I probably should have, but I didn't want to get like steamrolled into wiki feet. I also wanted
Shaman.
images of the manga rather than like the
I'm
anime.
gonna type in Shaman King feet. Oh wow, there's a bunch of like bunch of drawing of Shaman King's characters like feet being presented. I typed in Shaman King feet manga.
Here's a
And
screen grab someone did of a panel.
let me
Oop,
take a look.
is it going to
See,
load?
is it now loading?
Here we go. This is what
Oh,
like all of the feet look like. Like he just says, "Okay, that's it. It's a foot."
yeah, that's the chibi feet. You know, that's I seen that before. I seen I think Osamu Tezuka draw feet like that sometimes.
Oh yeah,
That's
he
yeah,
does. Or did since he's dead.
yeah. Since he's dead, he can't do it no more. Yeah, that's how you do it if you want to like kind of like when a character is far away and sometimes people just draw their like fist as like circles. You know, it's kind of that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if you
Alrighty,
don't want to draw it, just do literally anything else, I guess.
I gotcha. Um, Man, there's another thing I wanted to mention. The last episode for this podcast was supposed to be with Yellow Swag and Berries and Creams, but I lost the recording because my computer crashed and it got all deleted. And in that same episode, I talk about how okay to get you a time frame on when this all happened. That recording happened a couple days after Roe v. Wade got like revoked,
Oh,
you
that was
know.
a while ago.
Yeah, that was a while ago. So and coincidentally my podcast had the catchphrase of "We love women." That was the podcast catchphrase. And I the episode before that, which would have been before Roe v. Wade got revoked, I mentioned how I'm thinking about retiring that catchphrase because we already like used it a lot. But then the whole thing happened, and then in this episode that's never going to come out because I've lost the recording, um I mentioned that I'm going to bring it back because of Roe v. Wade getting revoked, you know, to show support for women. And it also I think we're in women, was it women month, what's it called, month of women is March, right? You
That
know what I'm saying?
is correct. I
Or
forget the official
women's,
name. It's like a women's appreciation or something like
yeah,
that.
women's appreciation. There's a women appreciation day, right? Like on the 9th or 8th. Hold up. Women Appreciation Day. Yep, 8th. And
Oh,
that's
Women's History Month is March.
actually that would be the actually our episode comes out on that day. This episode comes out on Women's Appreciation Day.
Nice. So please appreciate a woman while you're
Julian,
listening to this.
what do you appreciate about women? Give me a
Um,
couple things you like about women.
hmm, I can't say boobs. Uh,
Well, because anyone can have boobs, right?
True.
But but you gotta hand it to women. When they have boobs, they have boobs. You know, they have boobs. You know what I'm saying?
Nobody boobs like women. Let me tell you.
No, any any of them genders could have boobs, but when women got boobs, they're boobs. You know what I'm saying?
But like growing up, I always heard about how I guess the female perspective is very different from the male perspective. I
When
never
it comes to
really vibed
boobs.
with that, just like in general.
Oh, okay.
Like, if you look at an apple, like, uh, you'll look at an apple and you might say, "Oh, that's an apple." But when women look at an apple, they might say, "Oh, that's an apple," but in like a very women way.
the
uh,
the women way to say um it's an apple.
yeah, which
Uh,
I always would look at as like, oh, I don't know if that's true, but maybe it is. You know, if anyone
but
can like validate that for me.
I thought you're gonna say that like when a man sees an apple, it's an apple, but a woman sees an apple, it's something else. I thought you were gonna say that like women see we as a men see something and a woman sees something else is what you're trying. I thought that's where you're going with this. Like they have their women sensory, they have their own like senses, and when they see an apple, they don't see an apple. They see like maybe a creature or a different fruit. I thought that's where you're going with this angle.
Possibly. Like that's the way a lot of people talk about it. Like it might be bullshit, especially because you hear it from like a lot of older people or
Yeah.
like manosphere people who are like, "Oh, you got to respect the perspectives of women. They're otherworldly creatures with like different brains than you and I."
Oh my god. I
And I'm
that kind of
like, I
remind
guess I can appreciate that, but also I feel like it's bullshit.
it kind of reminds me of yeah, it's when you bring up like older like men, um it kind of reminds me of it reminds me of what was I gonna say when like so like certain kind of like studies on like women that are old and people thought were true, but then like later like people re-examined and said like actually this is like bullshit, it's not true because the people involved just said these things about women because they hated something specific about them. I guess the biggest example would be like um witches, you know, because
Oh yeah,
if you
definitely.
look into like the witch hunting manuals and shit like that, it would say stuff like, "Oh, if a woman is friends with another woman, she's a witch," right? And it's so insane that at some point people thought this was like legit. And I think a more recent example is that the concept of Stockholm syndrome isn't true, apparently,
Ooh.
because it only for whatever reason it only seems to happen to women. Um, but the case, and I forget the original case that had like that created the concept of Stockholm syndrome. There was apparently some foul play going on because that I don't know the exact details, but apparently there was more to the story of why the woman who was kidnapped would like stay with her kidnapper, and I think it had to do with it had to do with some sort of with something about like the politics of the country where the concept came about, where she had like more trust in a kidnapper than in her own government helping her out, which is why she stayed with the kidnapper.
That's
And
also the plot of Beauty and the Beast. Like Belle couldn't leave because like the Beast and her father had a deal. So it wasn't Stockholm syndrome. She like
yeah,
couldn't risk like ruining her family's reputation.
yeah, exactly. And it's like I guess it's just so easy for people to be like, oh, it's because these women actually fall in love with their kidnapper, which is kind of like a very shitty, because it's like, oh, because women love men that treat them like shit, and kidnappers are like the biggest pieces of shit, which is like, well, the only the only guys who say shit like that are like guys who are already like pieces of shit and they don't see like what a woman might see in another man, you know. All they
Yeah,
see is like some douche, but there could be something else there, and the fact that they're not dating this guy, they don't see it, right? I'm really like I am really just like off the dome. All this shit is what I'm saying from some fucking like tweet thread that I read like months ago that I could barely remember. So it could be that everything I'm saying is false, but that's the human experience for you, where everyone is just telling each other about concepts they only know half about.
Yeah. You see it every day on Twitter. Someone says, I can't believe this thing. And then someone says, actually, thing not true.
Yeah, the reoccurring one where it's like, oh, look at this cute animal picture, and then someone captions with like, well, actually, this isn't cute because this is the animal only does this when they have like a brain tumor or something, right?
This
and
animal only does this when they're experiencing like road rage.
right, and then people complain about those kinds of people. And like I don't necessarily have a problem with the people who say like, actually, this means the animal is in stress. I have like no real problem with those kind of people, but something about complaining about those kinds of people feel kind of weird to me,
Yeah.
because it's like it's like, what, like, are you mad that like someone is saying what actually is happening, or I don't know, if you're 100% sure about whatever the person captioning it is like saying bullshit, probably should just say that. Or I don't know, I'm not here to tell you how to fucking tweet. um
I
I'm
am.
not.
I'm here to tell you how to tweet. Buy my
I
book, How to Tweet.
I don't know tell you how to tweet on a podcast. I tell you how to tweet on Twitter, where you'll see it first thing first. I don't need to tell you that on my podcast. I had another angle I was gonna go talking about, but yeah, I appreciate women is what I'm saying. I appreciate women so much. Women are so great. This is why, if women weren't great, then no one would want to transition into one. You know what I'm saying? You know,
True.
you know what I'm saying, Julian? Yeah,
We would
exactly.
all be dudes.
For today's Women Appreciation Day, just find your closest women the closest women to your radius, grab them and give them a big old kiss and tell them you appreciate them. I give you permission to do this. If you perchance get apprehended from doing this, just tell them that the Main Character Syndrome podcast told you that it was okay for you to do this. I
Make sure to mention a thing that they do that you like that will help your case because it acknowledges that you do recognize them at least.
Yeah,
Unless it's
exactly. You
something
should.
stupid like, oh, you do really well in like Mario Kart.
You gotta when you compliment women, you gotta the classic rule is you gotta compliment them on something that's not like around the chest area or butt area. There's certain special ways you could say it, like, oh, I like your outfit today, you know or I like it, I like how you coordinate your outfit with your shoes and blah blah blah.
Or
And
it's very cool that you can do math because I can't count.
yeah, that's my favorite thing. That's my favorite feature about women is they could count, and I don't have to do it, you know. You get what I'm saying?
True.
Yeah, yeah. All right, let me.
Disclaimer, we can definitely count.
Yeah, I could count. I could count, but when the numbers get too big, I lose count. You know what I'm saying?
Got to
Once they're
go
too
out and find a lady to do the rest for me.
what once it's too big, it's too much. You know what I'm saying? All right. Julian, what do you got planned? What do you got planned this month?
Oh
What are the
boy,
schemes?
this month. It's a bit of a mess. I'm hoping to actually get a comic out. It's something I've been sitting on for a few years. A
Mm-hmm.
SpongeBob parody where SpongeBob is a cute little girl and Squidward is like a big beefy lady.
Really?
And the angle of the comic is that SpongeBob's life is miserable and she owes Plankton money and Plankton is like a little busty mob boss, but it's plankton. But she's like, fuck you, SpongeBob. Where's my drug money?
Is it feels like you could these characters could be anybody. the,
Yeah,
the fact that they're SpongeBob characters feels like you picked them out of a hat or something.
pretty much. Like I haven't watched a lot of SpongeBob. Um, it's mostly just an exercise for me to try out some comic concepts, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping that some people will get fun out of it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
if not, I will be burned at the stake appropriately for parodying characters I don't really know anything about.
Gotcha. I
But
thought
that'll be coming out this month.
when you were talking about it earlier, I thought you were gonna go into some sort of like NTR angle where like SpongeBob's like wife owes money, so she has to like pop her pussy to like Mr. Crab or something, and Mr. Crab like nuts in her like huge loads. I thought that's where this was going.
Maybe another time. I'm not really that kind of writer, even though I am a fan of NTR comics. If you know any
Oh
NTR
yeah,
artists, definitely send them to me.
yeah, me too. A big NTR head. A lot of people are like, no, NTR is evil, but I'm like, you're weak. You're weak. See, the trick is that like people see the people enjoy NTR wrong because everyone's like, oh no, I can't enjoy NTR because it's like, why do you want to see like the person that you're dating like fuck someone else? And it's all like, no, you idiot, you're supposed to project as the person who they're fucking. That's the angle. And then you might say like, oh, but they're usually like ugly bastards. And it's like, dude, you're an ugly bastard in real life, dude. It should be easy.
Or you could like read it from the perspective of the lady. Like
Oh
a
yeah, if
lot
you're
of
into that.
times in those stories, she's like, "Oh, I love my husband," ooh, woo. And then like the other guy shows up, and like he's such a cool dude that she starts to resent the other guy.
The stories are
She'll spit on him, kick him in the balls.
the stories are really funny. I find the whole concept of like, oh, once she gets like a taste of really good dick, she's like her solidification is complete. Like she becomes this like cock hungry whore. All it took was one bit of like good dick, and like the writing feels so kind of incelly because that's kind of how they think. Like, oh no, once she receives Tyrone's cock, it's over, and it's like, why are you thinking about Tyrone's cock? You know,
Yeah,
I speaking of which, I am gonna tie this back to this, but I actually binged all of Agretsuko because the last season came out, and I
how is
liked
it?
it. I liked it. I liked it enough. I feel like the quality was pretty consistent. Some seasons were weaker than others. I think my favorite one was season 3 with the whole she becomes like a an idol. I thought that was pretty cool. Um, they got like married, and do you mind spoilers for Agretsuko, or do you even care?
I don't mind spoilers. I might pick it up as someone who watched the web series like all those years ago. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the actual proper TV show has just been like in the corner of my eyes, like something to get around to eventually.
It's pretty good. I feel like the best things about the show are the side characters. I feel like it's got some of the best like side characters. I cannot pick like a favorite because I like too many of them. Although my least favorite thing about the side characters is that the whole like romance between like Retsuko and like Haida feels so like forced, and not even too forced, but feels so like it makes everything is trying to convince you that it's more important than it's like the most important thing in the world is that Retsuko and Haida get together. And it's like you don't even really want to see them get together. And I think what kind of like fucks it up is that in season 2 they introduced the character of Tadano, which is like this rich like millionaire donkey boy who is incredibly compatible with Retsuko, but the only deal breaker is that Tadano does not believe in marriage, and Retsuko want
Base.
yeah base, and Retsuko's like, I ultimately want to get married, and luckily Haida does want to get married, but Haida just is not that like I there's nothing about Haida and Retsuko wants me to like see them together. And I think a big problem is that after season two, Tadano kind of stays as a side character, and it's like he should have just kind of fucked off and just not come back ever. Because like the fact that he's still in the show makes Haida look worse. You know, like
Oh,
oh
that's great.
here's like this perfect guy that Retsuko could get to anytime that's still part of her life, right? But
Yeah.
no, they're just not together, and Haida like still the trying. It just doesn't fucking work out. Um, yeah. So anyway, I was thinking that I think Haida should fuck Tadano. I think they should have like gay sex. Was my big complaint is that there was not enough gay sex in Gretzico. You know.
That
Um.
reminds me of a similar character dynamic in that one show, New Girl. Halfway through
Uh.
the show, they introduce this older man character, and he and the main girl are like in a relationship, but like he had a better relationship with the side characters than he did with the main girl. But then when they broke up, they kind of just like took him out of the show. It's like, no, like what if he like became better friends with the other guys than he ever did with her? That would have been more interesting.
Mm, they just get removed.
Yeah, he just like disappears. He's like, I'm old and I'm leaving.
I'm old and I'm
They could
leaving.
have gone a step further, like you were saying. They
Mm-hmm.
they could have fucked like bros.
They should have had gay sex. Um,
I guess
that would
that would
have
have been too much for Fox.
true. I was thinking about in the back of my head, if I had more time and I was more dedicated, I would make like a dojin about Agretsuko, about Tadano having like gay sex with Haida, right? Um
Right.
but as it goes on, it kind of gets more like Tadano is like really, and it kind of leans into the whole, because all the side characters want Retsuko to get with Haida, which doesn't make any sense. So I thought like, okay, what if like Tadano wants that, but like because there's ultimately like a sick like sex reason, right? So the the whole time Tadano is like still having sex with like Retsuko after they broke up, but then Tadano's also fucking Haida, right? So he's fucking like both halves of this like relationship, you know, and he wants them to get together because I just kind of turns him on more. Like he likes there could be a whole scene where he convinces Haida to like suck his cock because he used it to fuck Retsuko, and Haida's like a little pathetic beta male sucks off to Dano, right? And I think it'd be, aside from it being super funny, I think it could be super hot and
Oh man, you're telling me that Ritsuko touched the stick?
Retsuko sucked his cock. Retsuko fucked his cock, and yeah, it's like it's something's kind of hot about like a rich guy who owns like two angles of this relationship. Oh god. So yeah, anyway, that's my pitch for this dojin. If people like that idea, comment below. Cheesy, make this comic. We need to see Tadano fuck Haida and Retsuko, and then he tells them to fuck each other, and then he fucks them after they're done fucking each other. It'd be this like fuck circle that's going on because he's like this rich piece of shit who can just like he gets off by fucking like very milk toast couples. There's got to be someone out there like that, right?
I would think
Yeah,
so. Like
yeah,
in the back of my head, I've always conceived of the inverse of that, like a couple that like targets a person and then individually compete for that person's affection. But it is more interesting for it to be one person like I guess tobogganing these two people against each other
I
sexually.
think I think what you're describing could work as some sort of porn parody of like Parasite, you know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it could be a couple target like a rich guy and they're and like a bisexual rich guy, and they do like a back and forth with him, not just because they're like they love having sex, but also there could be like an angle of like funneling money out of him, you know.
Right. I suppose that actually would be something people might be interested in, given
Uh-huh.
the way OnlyFans and stuff like that works.
I've been I've been really into the idea of like rich guys like um being into like weird like esoteric like sex things. Not in the whole like, oh, they're all pedophiles, because yeah, whatever.
That's a
Sure.
bridge too far.
Yeah, and that's real life. That's just real life already. But I like the idea of I came up with this idea about a some sort of like artist who does these like installations that are like replicas of specific architecture that are like indoors, and then he gets approached by a rich fuck, an old man, who hires this artist to recreate his childhood home down to every single detail. And because he wants to like find a woman that looks like this artist like mother during that time when he was still a child, because he plans to like fuck her in this replica home, right? Because he's really turned on with the idea of like inserting his gross sex self into someone's like past, you know.
Right.
That could be kind of the angle that to be going with this. And you know what I'm saying, Julian?
Yeah, you know who would fund that?
Who?
Nathan Fielder.
That does sound like, yeah, yeah. So it'd be like Nathan Fielder, but like if he had sex. It's Nathan Fielder, but if he fucked is my premise for this story. Oh
If he
man.
had sex. Oh boy.
Oh boy. So we're getting close to the end of the podcast. I we usually end with I we end with who deserves to get canceled this week. And Julian, do you have any idea who needs to get canceled this week? Because if you don't, I could start with mine.
Presently, no, I don't have any cancellations in mind.
Okay, well,
Everyone has
why
been particularly civil this week, from what I can see.
everyone's been civil so far this week. Well, while you think of one, I'll say mine. And I think I really hate the the guys on Twitter who have like the Marvel statue profile picture and are
Oh,
like content farming, like they post a picture of a castle and he's all like, what's stopping humans from making, why did humans stop making buildings like this?
those are
Right?
pretty bad.
Yeah, I hate those guys. But I also really just don't care if people quote tweet them, like to shit on them, like, oh, this is what they want, right? And it's like, yeah, but what am I gonna really do to prevent that? Like them growing a massive audience. Like I think I heard somewhere the goal for these guys is that they get their accounts with a massive following and then they sell someone the account, you
Yeah,
know?
that's usually how it goes, along with
Right.
those X thing everyday accounts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because I heard that's how like I heard someone say that that's how Keffels got big, is that her account was originally like an out of context something account and then she switched it to her streaming account. Um,
What?
maybe that's what I heard.
Big if true.
Big if true, but I wonder how, because there was another tweet going around of people saying like, oh, this you might be following this account because they were recently like so and so out of context, but they switched over to this, so everyone like blocked this person, and I did. I can't remember if they're a bad person or not, but I'm fine with like blocking people. I hand out blocks like candy on Halloween. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, especially if they're like brand accounts or marketing accounts. Like,
Mm-hmm.
do not market to me. I don't appreciate it.
Oh, I love blocking every like account that gets like advertised to me.
Yeah,
I have like IGN blocked because they advertised to me once. I got like McDonald's blocked, even though I did a whole. Actually, no, I think I unblocked them.
yeah. Gotta
Because
unblock McDonald's.
I
What
gotta
if they
unblock
reach
them.
out?
Where they reach out and say, "Hey, we love McPaglachi. We need you to make a sequel, McPaglachi 2." You know, can't miss out on the moneymaker like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think
We want you to do the official McDonald's manga. We were gonna
uh,
reach out, but you had us blocked on Twitter.com.
I would be down. I have, if they asked me to do a straightforward like a comedy like Ronald McDonald comic with the whole with the cast. I feel like I could do it.
They really
Um,
should. Like, imagine bundling that with your kids' meal, a whole comic.
I feel like I remember in In and Out Burger used to they would give out little like sticker sheets if you asked for them,
Ooh.
and maybe they could give out little tiny like Game Boy manual size comics for people.
I think
That
Lunchables did that with Bionicle once upon a time when that was a thing.
did you say Lunchable?
Yeah.
I thought the Bionicle like tube thing already came with a comic.
It might have, but mine didn't. I just remember it from
Mm-hmm.
those Lunchables. They were like, collect all of these comics, buy more Lunchables.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah,
And they were like tiny, like Game Boy manuals.
yeah. I think they need to come bring that back. I remember back in the day they would sell like Marvel figures that had like a Marvel comic in the back that people like um it came with the figure, and they don't do that no more because I mean I don't know, maybe they just didn't sell or people just weren't that interested. You know, bring that back. That's what I want to. Get rid of all these like clout like follower accumulation accounts and bring back little comics in things. That's what we really need. That's what we're missing. It's just tiny comics and things.
Yeah, Elon Musk, if you're missing or if you're listening, this is what the Everything app is lacking. More
Mm-hmm.
comics.
This is what we need. All right, Julian, do you think of anyone that deserves to get canceled this week?
Unfortunately, no. I went through my timeline and it's mostly just been very chill. I have also been very liberal with the blockings
Mm-hmm.
because that's just what they say you're supposed to do if you want to have a healthy social media. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure it'll change because I'm also following a lot of bullshit masters. So you block one
Nice.
account and they say, "Oh, what about this one?"
There's this feature on Instagram that if you block an account, it asks you, "Do you want to block any future accounts this person makes?" And it's
Ooh.
like, oh, that's so perfect. I wish Twitter had a feature like that.
I wish Discord had that. They introduced that alternative profile thing, and there's no indication when you're interacting with a alt profile that it is that
I
same
should I should
person,
get into
which
that.
is just so
I could
annoying.
I could use an I could I could use an alt profile. Not gonna lie. All right, and I think yeah, I think that's the end of Main Character Syndrome podcast. Thank you for listening. We're gonna try to get this back weekly. We're gonna try to go back and forth with the editing, so it doesn't have to so it won't be too much of a workload from my end. You know.
And help me out in the comments if you see any people worthy of canceling. Point them my way so I can give them my assessment.
Right, exactly. So it's been me, Cheesymanfredo, and Julian, my Julian. That is that your name on Twitter?
It is.
All right, cool. Yeah, and we're gonna be back. We're gonna be back. If this felt a little low energy, I promise you that next episode is gonna be too much energy.
We're gonna come in swinging.
we're gonna we're gonna be coming in hot, fired up, and you won't know what to do. You'll probably get a little. You'll feel uncomfortable just how like hot and steamy we come in next episode.
If you want to like get a visual interpretation of how it's going to look, watch that CW Flash show and just imagine like all the electricity just radiating off of every surface.
Watch that scene where I think it's season 2 where that one chick overdoses on speed force drugs and she fucking just blitz herself into non-existence because she goes so fast.
Speed Force drugs. Oh my god, I forgot
Exact.
about that.
Yeah, that's gonna be us next time. All right, thanks. Thanks for listening, guys. Talk to you later.
Goodbye.